right. Thanks, Peter. Seeing that's after 7 o'clock, we'll bring the Board of Water Commission to commence. The first item on the agenda is public participation. If there's anyone who'd like to participate, please just give your name and address.
Hi, I'm Kathleen Hillman and I live at 179 Susan Drive. I hear you're going to change our rates for the water, but before you do that, I wish you would look at how many people have outstanding bills and how much is not being collected. I think that a lot of people think that when we send our water bills to liens that they don't have to pay them. So I am really concerned that there are some people who are not paying, and we could be getting a lot more revenue by people paying. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kathleen. Is there anyone else? All right. Seeing that no one else is volunteering, we'll move on to the next agenda item. Discussion of water rate study and possible vote.
Okay. This is Fran. So we had the presentation last meeting with, kind of give the overall scope of the water rates and how we kind of arrived at some conclusions, and then kind of left to digest that information and then get, from a department standpoint, get back to you with a recommendation, which we're leaning towards the tiered rate. A couple of thoughts in that process. It encourages conservation for one thing, which I think is good. It kind of has the people that are using the most water, pay accordingly. Those are kind of some of my thoughts on that.
Option C.
Yeah, option C.
Thanks for clarifying that, Fran.
And we do have time bond individuals on the line here. If you needed to get further clarification or help.
Thank you for that too, for everyone for joining us. So the alternative C, that's for the next 5 years, correct?
I'll let Chris make a couple of comments on that, because I think you say 5 years, but I think in the presentation that was shared with us, it recommends that we look at the rates on an annual basis. Correct, Chris? Or?
Yeah, I guess, right. Joanne, I'll reiterate that. I mean, things change, in terms of needs, uses. So there is, this is a projection, but what happens in the real world, and you've seen that in your data, through impacts on seasonal weather changes, wetter seasons, less water will be used, drier seasons, typically more water will be used. And you've seen impacts to your system over the years due to construction impacts, at your treatment plants, things like that. You've had to have water restrictions over the last few years intermittently that have impacted water use. In addition, cost of doing business also changes, just you're beholden to the economy that you live in. So all those things would impact your revenues and expenses in the future. And certainly we would recommend that you on an annual basis update the model to make sure that where you're heading is on the right path. So
Thanks, Chris, for that explanation. I guess from a approval standpoint, Joanna or Fran, how would that work if we're reevaluating what the current year situation is. I guess, how does that work?
Well, it's perfectly within your preview and scope of authority to vote on, raising the rates. So that's,
You do it every spring.
yeah, you review it every spring and then go into the, after July, go into, the rates being adjusted or engaged.
Okay, right. So that's, I guess, what I was getting at. It's not a set 5-year tier structure or anything like that. It'll be reevaluated each spring or whatever time is determined.
Right. And I think if you had something in place, kind of a trigger to do this every year, I think it would just make it a lot smoother. That it's kind of, given that that's the water division is going to, evaluate the rates, reset or whatever each year. It makes it a lot simpler than going years on end without doing that.
Some kind of structure.
Yep, I agree.
Can I input on that? I mean, now that the water department has this model, it's not that difficult to update it on an annual basis either. Whether you do that or we do that, it wouldn't be that challenging to update this on a routine basis, and that would definitely be best practice.
Agreed.
Well, a couple comments I had were actually based on what during public participation with Kathleen Hillman had mentioned. Do we have a sense when you develop a model for bad debt, I guess? Was that, because I thought there was a value for that, and then I was just curious what that was.
And the bills are paid even if they're liened. We actually think more revenue if a utility bill is liened because we get the 10% interest on it as well, even though we're waiting a bit longer.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
The income, but we still get
Right,
it.
you get it eventually.
Yes, we do, plus 10% interest. So it's not that negative, truly.
All right, and if I remember correctly, that option C, like the projections on that, with the tiers, the base residential rate would show like kind of a net decrease, I thought, for the first couple of years.
That is
Yeah.
correct. Chris,
Yes,
right?
that is correct on that part. Residential bills are, for an average residential user, they should expect their bills to go down a little bit based on how their meter size base charges are structured and the tier volume, tier 1 pricing and tier 2 pricing were decreased compared to what it is currently.
I thought it was like 50 or 80 bucks a year,
Mm.
something to that
It
effect.
does, like this, two-family household would go down, they'd see a decrease. But families may see an increase with irrigation, what have you.
Right, yeah, this is the one where there's like a step increase the more you use.
Yes, there's 3 tiers.
Yeah,
And the base charge in the model is expected to increase in the second year and moving forward. The 2 initial years, the base remains the same, correct?
That is correct. But something that I should bring up is the current proposed rate increases are funding CIP up to FY25. So if any additional capital improvement items come in, that would have an impact in terms of what future rate increases might be. And that's why we recommend reevaluating what your rates should be on an annual basis.
Thank you.
I think that's kind of what Mark was alluding to.
Exactly.
Rather than having a decrease too, is, maybe leave it like level funded to account for that, because, there's, and again, especially if we're going to look at it once a year,
On an annual basis, truly.
just hard to go back. I know it's not significant when you look at the individual rate here, but the, I guess the psychological effect of having a decrease and then seeing an increase after that.
Right. And I also think because that you do have some fluctuation, with the tiered structure, that we also should think about that we put a certain amount of money away each year. That is something that we don't do. We tend to rely on the undesignated and all, but if we every year, whatever amount we decide, put that away, and then that's that kind of the buffer, and probably set a number that it never goes below either. Tap into it, we're not that, and they're taking $50,000 out of it because, you know, we've been sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So the goal would be to build on designate. I
Correct.
mean,
Right.
that's
And not use.
Yeah, but
We've been using it to fund our.
yeah, we actually
budget.
use the undesignated now, but I'm suggesting that we set aside funds that, you know,
Fran is talking like a rainy day.
Yeah, rainy
so to
day.
speak.
and that doesn't.
Enterprise
Exactly.
fund you could use towards projects.
we could do two things. We could set, you know, an amount, you know, that we go every year, whatever, into there, and then the criteria for which we draw out of it. And then I suppose we could set a cap too, when it gets to a certain level of the
Quite similar to what the I fund is on the
Yeah.
wastewater side, you know, the
Sure.
situation, we would allocate so much of our revenue to the I for refurbishing and what have you. What we need to do is establish something in the water enterprise to refurbish our existing structure or expand.
Yeah.
And that would be a discussion with the auditor, and I mean, it's just moving money from one line to another, so I don't see why it
And
wouldn't
it's-
be.
That's a buffer too, you
Yeah.
know?
Sure.
And we've never had that before. We've
No,
always
it's
had
not.
availability of funds, so to speak, but sometimes you do get those spots where it's,
And it would be something to do with some of the I
Yeah.
So.
So would there be benefit in, like if you go with option 3, modifying that slightly to have the base rate sort of at the level it is now, rather than decreasing it? That would help fund what you're talking about.
I believe initially, well, the first 2 years, it stays
it stays the same.
level, right, the base rate? For all the different size meters?
For the
It's
first,
like fiscal year 2022, it starts to increase.
2022,
Yeah, from this year to next year, it increases.
yes, next year, right?
Oh, okay, and then it decreases after that.
Not necessarily.
So
So one of my questions was, I'm sorry if this is already answered, what's the impact on the average user? I'm looking at 5/8 meters and 3/4 inch meters, and it looks like the base charge is pretty consistent until fiscal year 25. And I'm, you know, it's a lot of residential services right there.
Primarily 5/8 meters, yes.
Yeah, okay. So the impact on the average user isn't, I guess it isn't significant per se.
the meter charges, they do not decrease. It's only the the volume associated with the water they consume, that charge decreased.
I see, I don't think that's what I was misunderstanding. Okay.
So the way the chart reads, just so I'm clear, the non-rate revenue, is that the base charge?
Yes, non-rate revenue is base charge, correct?
Well,
So the non-rate revenue coming in right now, I believe that does not include base charge. I think that is going into the actual revenue itself.
the base charge would be in the total rate revenue?
Yes, the base
Yes.
charge is coming in as a rate revenue. Non-rate revenue includes items such as entry fees, state revenue
Okay.
subsidies, cross-connection charges.
Yeah, plans and what have you and all that, right?
Right.
So the base is incorporated into the revenue, it's part of the
The
revenue.
total rate
Yeah.
revenue line. I mean, Joe, I think you were hinting at this. I think what would be helpful, because this is obviously going to be a change to the ratepayer, would be helpful would be some modeling to say, what would the charge be to a household that is using X, Y, and Z volumes? So at least we've got an understanding of, here's kind of where,
Yeah.
because I think if we go to Mark's point, and I think Mark had a good point last year. This is a material change to the way people would be charged for water going forward. And if we don't do something to at least get some outreach to what that would look and feel like, again, in advance of making the change, and I agree, I think this is doing the right thing from a usage standpoint. It is, I wouldn't say a deterrent, but you are getting charged for what you're going to use, and there may be some, because I think something like that
That's it, I
would
think.
be probably helpful.
Well, Mike did that in the packet that's called results. It's the 10 top residential users, that spreadsheet we worked on, remember?
But what I
Yes.
want is not 10 top. I want, like, give me 3 center cut,
Uh-huh.
tiers
Yeah.
of
We
users.
average
Right.
for, you know,
I've got
multi-family,
low.
you know, very.
I wouldn't call it low, but
Moderate,
moderate,
low, moderate,
and
and
then
high.
somebody that's no water.
Yeah.
We really want to capture that, to say, this is what it's going to mean.
Mm.
And because if we don't get in front of this, you know, before
Right, it's gonna.
it happens,
Right.
it's gonna be that.
I don't think that would be that too hard to pull that together, go
No,
that.
So where-
No, we can easily pull that together for the city if needed. Currently, we do show what the user impact will be for an average residential customer, but we can also compare on the higher end and then on the lower end what the bill might be looking like.
Is the
Right.
28,800 the average family? Is that the average residential user?
Apologies, could you repeat that?
Is the customer impacts and affordability residential, the family of four, 28,800 gallons per quarter, is that the average or is that just the assumed value?
So what we did is we looked at what the average consumption is per capita in the city of Westfield, and that's about 80 gallons per person per day. And then we looked at the number of people per household, which is about 2.5 people. But I think we were more conservative in terms of trying to figure out what the user impact is. So we went with 4 people per household. So it's going to be 322 gallons of water consumption per day per household. That's the assumption we went with.
Okay, yeah, so there's that chart that was in the presentation that I'm looking at right now that describes, based on that assumption, the 4 users at the average per capita per day usage, you know, how the rates are impacted. Ron, that would be nice to see, you know, where like the top third percentile and the bottom third percentile fall into that.
This one,
So you get a little range. So people can understand how their bill may be affected based on their usage.
We can certainly
that's
pull
not-
it. Yeah, go ahead, Jeff. Yeah.
No, sorry, I was just gonna say it's obviously not gonna be perfect, you know, but it'll at least give people an idea. You know, I'm around this much water. I should expect to pay at least this much or whatever. You know, maybe it's a little more than I'm gonna pay.
We can certainly pull that together. I might caution about using words if you're going to be publicly communicating it, like average. I mean, average is like a mathematical equation, but everybody thinks they're average and might be surprised if they think they're average when they're actually using more water. So you might want to use words like low water user, moderate water user, high water user, very high water user, something like that, so that and then have the actual mathematical how much water gets used in each of those.
like non-irrigation.
Right, Chris, I think it'd be helpful,
Good call.
because what we're trying to look at as a subset is the residential base. And tiering that to what you just said, low, moderate, high. And these are generally some of the things that contribute to high, would be irrigation services one.
We might even want to look at very high. There might be residential users out there that are watering their lawn 7 days a week. Yeah, it looks like a golf course. Yeah.
Can you have an example of a high? We have somewhere like 400,000.
I would say up off of like Shaker, the new developments up there. There are sometimes they use that much water, and Ridgecrest does, Camelot does. Camelot's a couple on Camelot. There's a dozen houses on Camelot Lane. Maybe you guys, at least 2 of those are extremely high users.
I just think it'd be helpful to be proactive in how we communicate this and making sure that I agree. Because it will be a material change. And I think another thing that may be helpful is how people interpret the bill. At least having, hey, this is what it's going to look like.
Right.
And having some sort of means of them looking at it to say, because again, there's going to be 3 different rate tiers. Is that
Correct.
So I think it's going to be imperative that we have people understand what they're looking at, because today we're getting it on the rate tier of a restructure that we get that all day long.
Mm-hmm.
So
And did you say?
go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ron.
No, I was done.
Hannah, did you say you have some users that use 400,000 gallons a quarter?
Yeah, I could probably pull a handful up. It's definitely up in the Ward 5 area. Up in
Yeah,
Shaker.
Yeah, I just went to mine, out of curiosity, just to compare my highest quarter, and that's almost 3 times, what my highest quarter was. That's a considerable amount of water.
Yeah.
So, okay. Yeah, that'd be great if we could get that. It just will provide a little more clarity to the users, and then it gives us a little more data to make a decision.
So how would you like to see that, Ron, formatted? Like, how would you like to present it? So
In my mind, we'd have low, moderate, and high.
Non-residential was the suggestion, or
And
non-irrigation.
Chris suggested very high,
Yeah,
which I don't think is a bad thing.
again, we have.
And I think what we want to show Fran would be, because it's going to be, this is because we're quarterly. Now, so it's basically going to be a 12-way matrix, because the winter season is going to be where the people are going to be freaking out.
Right, it's
Right.
only 2
It's gonna
summer
be-
months.
So,
It's 1.5 quarters truly, guys. It's not even 2 full quarters. It's
Right.
1.5 quarters.
and it's funny because the way we do bill, some of those people, they're really, if you want to call it sticker shock, it doesn't happen until like the fall or almost the winter.
February is the last section
So,
coming
I
up.
think we need to show up by usage quarter
Mhm.
of what it's going to look like. And we probably also want a delta of what they are paying today to what they can expect to pay in the future at that usage level.
Yeah, similar to this little diagram, but because this was currently a 1 to 2 to a 4 for them. So this will just
Right.
alleviate the top 10 users and we'll make it,
Yeah, and I think even if, again, you have 4 tiers here,
mhm.
then you go like that, 10. So clearly, the commercial would probably need to be formed as well. And those. Right.
Make it their business.
I don't think you want to deal with that.
I don't know, I think,
No.
but.
The commercial are gonna use that water regardless.
Yeah.
Right.
They'll want to know about the rate increase, but
Because they need to forecast.
Correct.
They need to forecast what they're gonna pay
Mhm.
within their budget.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That it's,
Yeah.
and I think it's absolutely unfair if we don't be that transparent.
Finding out at the time of the invoices.
Oh, no, it's posted in the meetings and we
Yeah,
will post it
sure.
on the city website, we're very
I think you're
informative.
right on that. There has to be some outreach with that.
We
The
can
less of a
put in
surprise it is.
Does that make sense, Fran? Is that at least how I'm explaining
I
it?
get it. I don't, so we'll, whatever is eventually decided upon, we'll, first of all, sounds like we need to get you more information so you can, have a comfort level with your vote, which is fine. And then whatever, the outcome of that is that we, radio that to the public and just to inform them.
Yeah, and I know just the times the way they are, the newspaper isn't always on top of everything to report the stories, and we will reach out to the
Yeah.
newspaper, we always.
Yeah, we can certainly do it on the website, what is
Right.
inside, yeah,
We
and on the
definitely
bill as
will
well.
reach out to
Yeah,
them.
Right, you can,
Yeah,
you can
we can
include
be
it
an
there,
insert even, we
obviously, post it on the
can,
website.
we can work with the gas and electric even if with an insert, as we all, some people don't. So.
So were we gonna rely on Chris and team to help put that together, or?
I would appreciate it, Chris, is that doable?
Yeah, can I say it back just so I'm crystal clear on what I'm hearing? So we're gonna have essentially a table that'll have low, moderate, and high users on this axis, and we'll define what those are based on the data. And then across the top, it would be Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4 to represent the bills. And then it would be in each of those cells, it would be the amount paid and the delta compared to their previous year's bills.
Yes. And then-
Current structure, current rate.
Current rates.
Current rate structure, yep.
Rates.
And we're gonna do that based on the first year after the rate increase would be enacted.
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
good.
I think that would be,
And
yeah.
also, Chris, as you mentioned, there are some very high users. Could we put that as well as with the low, moderate, and high users? Could we put the very high users?
That's up, I could put it on there if that's what we wanna do.
I appreciate it. There isn't a lot, but just so for transparency's sake that people see.
Yeah, no, I think the best picture we can paint, it's only going to help in transparency and, understanding how it affects everyone and, if it does go into effect, what people should expect.
Okay. And that hopefully would be doable before our next meeting.
And I think there needs to be, in addition, there needs to be a rationale why the department is choosing to go down this path. I think there's a conservation element. So I think we want to have a sell story of the why. Clearly, we've got a debt service issue. We would have to do something regardless of a change. So if we would have to take rate no matter what because of the increasing debt service that we've got, right? So no matter what, that a rate change was going to happen to be, and I know there's some compliance things that we're trying to address as well, from a DEP standpoint and putting in a structure that is going to build in conservation. But I think that's the other part of this that we got to, I think
operational. Yeah, those are going down over time.
So I think all of these things, Joe, we probably want, when we do go down this, when we go down this path, we should package it in that way, because it isn't just, we're not just taking rate to take rate. It's a function of, we've got an increased debt service for the things that we're doing. And
it
this
has
is
been over 2 years too, just for that, 2 years.
Yeah.
Wait, and when's the last time there was a rate?
2 years ago, April of 2019.
Okay.
And we've done a lot of work, right, between then and now.
PFAS was just.
Exactly. And I think the fact that we would be reviewing this annually, so if we do get a recovery from either DOB or 3M or whomever, if we do get that, that would be factored into future rates.
Future, exactly.
Right, this is a recovery that we can then
Adjust the rates.
layer.
The rate payers can benefit.
Right. So I think that we just commit to that. I mean, that's the expectation, but we don't know what we don't know.
Okay.
But does that make sense, Joe?
Yeah, it absolutely does. And I think it kind of is in tune with what was said earlier. The city's going to have access to the model and parameters of the model. So annually, this can just get updated. And then, whatever the capital improvements are needed, whatever the debt collection is, or debt service, sorry, it can be changed annually. And like you said, if the city does recover funds for whatever reason, from whatever source, that can be factored in.
So Chris, you understand then what we need?
Yeah, that's straight. That's fine. We could definitely do that.
Thank you. And would that be doable by our next meeting, which would be June 1st?
Yes.
Terrific. Thank you.
I don't think that's a big lift for us. Is there any change to the assumptions in the model? Just to kind of go back to a previous conversation, and then I think Will explained it nicely on the base charges for meter size haven't changed, but there is some impacts on tiers. We're going to leave that the same based on the current model?
Yes.
You'll take a look at okay. You can take a look at the impact, and if we need to change that in the future before you make your final vote, we certainly can revisit that.
Yes.
We'll leave it the same for now.
Yeah, and if anything does change, I'd appreciate it if you could let us know what has changed, because we're working off, I guess what I'm guessing is the most recent version of the PowerPoint that has all the summary of what the tiered usage costs are.
Yes, I sent that to you last week, right? Or Monday morning, actually, Monday
Yeah,
morning.
thank you, Joanna. Yeah, thank you.
And I think, I don't know if we could call it out on this, fact sheet or whatever you want to call it, that the majority of people would be 5/8 meters. You're not going to have a whole lot of 3/4, 1 inch. You might get some residential with that, but for the most part, it's going to be a 5/8 meter. So, you could do that correlation with the base charge.
Yes.
So if people, they're looking at the base charge and all these base charges going up, most of them don't even have those meters on the residential side.
Fran, we'll identify that on the table. We'll indicate it's a 5/8 inch meter, and then this is the typical water usage or something like that. We'll indicate that. Yep.
Great. Are we satisfied, John? I guess we're good then. Chris and Will and Jen, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, folks.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Chris.
Thank you all very much.
Great work.
You're
Be in
welcome. Have a good
touch.
night.
Bye-bye.
All right. If it's possible, it would be nice to see that ahead of the next meeting as well, just so we can digest it a little bit.
Yeah, it came into me rather late Friday afternoon, guys. I'm sorry I didn't get it to you till Monday morning.
No need to apologize about that. I wasn't saying in that regard, but this does seem like it's moving towards the next meeting, may be a decision. So it'd be nice to have
Yeah, I hope
a
so.
few days. A few days would be fine.
When's your next meeting again, Joanna?
Pardon me?
When is your next meeting again?
Tuesday, June 1st.
Okay. Let me recap with Will and Mike when tomorrow, and we'll try and get you this a week ahead of time, so you've got some time to look at it.
Terrific. Appreciate it.
Yeah, we'd appreciate that. Thank you very much.
We do have the holiday there, guys. Keep that in mind, okay? The day before our next meeting is Memorial Day. Okay?
So Chris, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. And if you need to reach us directly, we
I'll
can
share
get in
emails.
touch with you.
Yeah.
Or us.
That's fine. As we put this together, if it's something that's looking strange, we can even float a draft if we need to. Yep, that's fine.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Good night, all.
All right, moving on to the next agenda item, discussion of water ban restrictions. So I know I'd be jumping ahead a little bit, but how's the reservoir doing?
Our reservoir's full. Flash
Okay.
floor installed and going over.
Excellent. Yeah, it's been a fairly wet spring. I mean, it's been very wet.
But I thought we discussed that we would keep kind of the ability to engage these at any time.
Yeah.
We weren't gonna,
But the drought monitor came out. Did anybody see it
I
today?
haven't seen it.
We're fine.
a drought.
Pardon? No, we're in a zero. We're fine. In our little corner of Massachusetts, we're fine at the moment.
So we're no longer in a drought condition?
Right, we're a zero.
Yeah, we
Excellent.
can dry, but.
Yeah.
we can get one.
Mass Waterworks, you can click into their link, Mass Waterworks Association, and you'll see the whole state drought map, and we're fine at the moment.
Excellent.
Night
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Right. A couple weeks.
Yeah.
And from a supply standpoint, we've had no issues with any of the well sources. We're all in terms of
Right.
usage.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree, Ron. The treatment plant's online, so there's a sufficient source of water on the north side, and the reservoir is full. I guess it'd be my opinion to release the ban at this point, and then we can address it like we have in the past on a month-to-month basis, and give the department that leeway if needed to add it.
I believe that's what we said last time we invoked it, that we visited as needed.
But it's still in place as of today.
Yes, it is.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
I reinforced.
That's part of your work.
All right, so do we need a motion?
Mhm.
All right, I make a motion to eliminate the current water ban or water restriction that is in place with the expectation that this would be reviewed on a meeting-to-meeting basis, and if needed, it would be reinstated at that time.
I'll second that.
All in favor, roll call?
Ron Cole, yes.
Commissioner Nojelski, sorry.
Yes.
Commissioner Papalarzik, yes. All right, the next agenda item is 5 Westminster Street, outstanding balance.
So I sent you all an email about this about a week or two ago. I had a meeting with Steve and Fran and the law department and the collector's office this afternoon, asking legal for some advice on what they recommend. The current person who runs the Condo Association has recommended that we post the lien to her specific property, so that she would take responsibility for it. Legal said that if that is what she wants to do, then we recommend that she have something in writing. So that way it's a legal document that she's responsible for it. So that's where that is right now. I think between now and November, when I process the liens, they want to pay off as much as they can. I think that'd be a great idea. But when November comes, when we process the liens, whatever is remaining on the account would be leaned towards her specifically.
Go ahead, Ron. Sorry.
A little over $25,000.
So did you lay out the schematic of how this kind of happened, or meaning it's condos, but it has 1 meter, and the 1 meter is in the 1 unit of, the person that's responsible for the bill. So that's, and however they divvy it up amongst themselves. There's no way to tell what each unit used for water. It's not a standard. We would never do that today. Allow.
No, that was built in 2000. So back then, what we had in place wasn't, so they ran one service in. But that was built today to be five separate services. So what he did was rent it at one time, and the owner at some time decided to sell them off individually. Kept that one meter, one service, and then service.
So has a repayment plan been set up? I mean, because clearly 25,000 between now and November is going to be.
They have approached the collector's office to see the payment options. I think the collector's office is kind of waiting to see what your guys' call was and how to handle it. Because her option was lean it towards my property and I'll just pay it off, which is an option, or paying it off little by little monthly, which I think would be the long road. So it really is up to you guys how you want to.
Well, my concern would be too, that kind of gets them flush now, but what's to prevent this from happening again in the future?
So
That's a good point. And my suggestion, this is just me talking, if there was a way that you give them amount to pay, whatever that amount is, and then the books are clear, but then they need to take, that corrective, they would need to take corrective action, which would be to, individualize each apartment.
Right.
That's what I was, because you're going to get in this, we're in this boat because this was allowed to happen however many years ago. This will happen. That person's not going to live in that apartment forever. You get people that sell the condos, maybe not aware of how,
we have no control over that.
Exactly.
Collectively, they're still using waters.
Yeah. So I'm just throwing that out there. Recuperating the money is one thing in paramount, but it's also we need to, how do we encourage or
Correct the issue.
to correct the issue? It's not you could utilize the same curve, the same service that goes there, and it would just be basically adding on to it essentially, and then just going into each individual apartment.
And would it be similar to the one we discussed earlier, the day of Road? Is that what we do there?
Not exactly, but yeah.
So is there more context of how we got to this point? I know, Hannah, that there was information provided that they didn't seem to have any other issues. So did they ever say why they got to this point with their water?
I believe what was told to the collector's office was that they were assuming the mortgage company was paying for the water bills. And that was not true. The last payment we received was in 2015.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, because we don't lien condo associations, we weren't catching it. Matt finally caught it this past year and realized there was a large open balance on the account. So we had to contact them.
So they don't even have funds in place to, they don't have a large sum of money that they've been collecting over time that just hasn't been getting paid.
Correct.
Okay, they've thought it's been paid and don't have that money readily available.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Which is confusing to the people that aren't necessarily the keeper of the meter, if you will. Other folks are paying, I'm assuming each month towards their water and thinking that's getting taken care of, and then you have, 1 meter, one person, and so
This is 5 units.
5 units with 1 meter.
So on that, in essence, if you were, each one of them is $5,000 in arrears.
Mhm.
And theoretically, she needs to collect. She's gonna get hers out of it. Now, her single property would be the lien holder. So that is the only one that couldn't be sold. The others could be sold and they'd be free and clear of their exposure. Theoretically.
She could sell hers too, they'll need to just be taken off the proceeds of other.
Yeah.
On her property.
On her property,
Municipal lien,
correct.
yes,
But
you mentioned.
Her property right now is worth $25,000 less than the other.
This is true, correct.
Mm-hmm.
However, we can change moving forward, we can work with the assessor's office, and all, liens are all driven by property ID number. So we have to approach the assessors, and they should have shared all.
there's
previously.
not a lot of these out there. Pass-throughs are kind of what we call them, but every single one of them always turns into a nightmare. It could be someone that had a house, and then they had a family member that lived in a garage, and then the garage turned into an apartment. Some totally,
Right?
State Street, there was one exactly like this. And it's not a good scenario at all. It comes to all kinds of issues. Someone doesn't, has a dispute with the neighbor, they could turn the water off down, it's crazy. They're like a customer of ours, but yet they're not, because they have this, it's
hers the one?
Yeah.
Hers is the one that has.
the meter. And she gets the bill, which would make sense, is because how it was kind of set up.
She's the one. So if she shuts that meter off, everyone's on.
Correct.
Her as well as.
All in 4 units,
Yeah.
correct.
Which isn't.
So she can't. She can take that. I guess the next question would be, I'm not opposed, if she's willing to accept the lien, I'm not opposed to that. At least we have air cover from, at least getting that $25,000 back at some point. I would strongly encourage her to work with the collection office to build in some sort of repayment schedule, because she's going to be able to, obviously that November timing, what was that? What was that a trigger of?
So when we process the liens, they get posted to the third quarter real estate taxes. So think bills have to be paid by like November 1st, and then I process the liens like early December.
So that lien would then be imposed as of that collection.
Correct. Whenever she receives the third quarter tax, real estate tax, the lien will be on that.
So if she, for whatever reason, suddenly sold to that could be a problem.
Yes.
That's worse.
Yes and no, because there'd have to be a municipal lien certificate completed by the collector's office with the appropriate attorneys. It's on the property right now, it's showing as lien. Correct? Or no,
No,
physically, you can manually attach it.
the account is specifically under the condo association, so if she was to sell her unit, it's not posted to anything. It's posted to as just one account, just for the meter itself. Her name is on the account because she's the account holder, because she runs the association. But I don't think each of those, they don't have accounts.
I'm pretty sure.
I don't
I don't think there's only one account, it's for the whole parcel. And I don't think her parcel matches the whole unit. I think they each have their own unit parcel number for the real estate tax purposes, but I don't think the whole unit matches any of them. But the problem with posting it to that map parcel is that no one's really responsible for that map parcel.
And I think that's kind of what I was saying earlier. It would be better if we could come up with a way to move this forward, that they become individualized. Because this or not. So first of all, if it's going to take forever to pay $25,000, then it's going to take them forever to come up with, I don't have a number, but say $8,000 or $10,000 to convert that over. That would be money better spent in helping everyone, as far as I'm concerned, because this is just the time that's going to be wasted managing this, and who did they pay, did they not pay, all that.
Well, I guess that was going to be my question is, what can you, this isn't something I want to commit to, but what would be the cost? I don't know the infrastructure, but what would be the cost individually meter each of those properties? And Is that something the department could help? Oh, right.
The cost as far as us doing it on the outside, we absorb it here. But the cost is gonna be the plumber on the inside to make sure each and every ones are separated.
So we'd be running a service line to the wall.
Yeah. But we're talking very short. It's not even
Right.
much frontage there anyway, so it'd be very, dig down, like we said, tee off the current curb to the individual houses. It wouldn't be,
Go ahead, Joe.
I was just saying, looking ahead a little bit too, this is a property that's going to get beat up a little bit by this proposed rate increase because they're going to have so much usage under 1 meter, even though it's really 5 properties using,
Oh, good point.
so
Yeah.
there's incentive potentially, if the rate increase goes through under the, alternate C, there's going to be incentive right there.
Right.
No doubt.
I'm sorry, Joe. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, it's fine. It's because it's my fault. You go ahead, Fran. I'm sorry.
The internal part of a plumber, and it could be very simple, which, I'm gonna assume that it would be,
I'm not sure how it's plumbed. If it's plumbed correctly, it should be pretty easy.
Yeah.
To disconnect each unit from the others.
right.
It's gotta come in a wall, right?
Yeah, right there. You see the line coming in there, so we can
Right here, the blue one, right?
Yep. Right there. That's the one coming in currently
And then from there, it's gotta tee through,
through all the other ones.
right? Something it's gotta go.
Yeah, should be a trunk line going.
So there must be a manifold or something in there,
You would hope. My guess is probably, I don't think you're gonna see
Individual.
5 individual valves in her basement.
right.
Yeah, I'm thinking it comes to the meter up, she tees off, she
Oh,
has a
then it
valve for
goes-
hers, and it goes into theirs, and they have one in each one, but,
I see.
yeah, a shut. Yeah,
Is it one service line into a common basement?
yes.
Correct.
No, we haven't been there, so I guess we're speculating whether it's a common basement or not, but.
I mean, you got to think that that's got to be somewhat, like you said, we don't know what's down there, but even if it's separating one service line into 5, there's a lot of plumbing for a building that's pretty small in footprint, to rack up that significant of a cost.
I think Matt would like us to have a step in the right direction because he's been in contact with her and she wants to know what she should be doing. So, I mean, if there's something that we can send somebody out there to take a look in the basement and see what the options are
That would be good.
I can do that.
to see.
I mean, my suggestion would be is if you work with her on the bill, but like Fran was saying, to have something set that will help you out on the outside, but you're gonna have to.
Yeah, each owner is gonna have to at least contract with a plumber to one, put the meter in.
Yeah, and I'm not, big proponent of someone getting something for nothing, but this, if we don't do something with this, it's
They're
never.
just gonna keep
Yeah,
revisiting
someone will be back.
Yeah.
I think it's
I agree 100%, Fran.
Gonna cost you.
It's- yeah.
So.
And I'll put it on next month's agenda.
Oh, yeah.
We'll have some answers and then make a decision then. That's okay.
So basically, our next month's agenda would be about to propose her willingness to take the lead.
Mhm.
And then have some
Yeah, here's kind of an option here that maybe you can discuss amongst yourselves and say, okay, if we did this, we could do this, and then we make movement on it.
The law department did say that they would be willing to help us draft a letter for her to sign stating that she's willing to take on the lead. It's not just with everything.
So Matt or legal would do that?
Yeah, when I spoke to Shannon this afternoon, she said she'd be willing to draft it up for us.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, so moving on to the next item, approval of contract signature authorization form.
So we have to fill these forms out every single year for the purchasing department. So this is for the current or the new fiscal year FY 22. So for the water division and the wastewater division, we have to nominate somebody to sign in Fran's absence. And past practice, we've nominated the deputy superintendents. So we'd be looking to nominate the Steve Fernandez for the water and Jeff Camelli for the wastewater.
So just one question.
Sure.
I'm looking at the March minutes. So that's how far behind we were?
We just got those last week. We usually get those March or April.
What did we vote on?
That one was for our auditing purposes for accounts payable.
Okay, all right.
So this one's for purchasing only, for contracts only.
That was my confusion. All right, so you want motions on these two, correct?
Yes, I need a motion for each.
And this is contract signature. So I make a motion to appoint Jeff Gamelli as contract signature authorization for wastewater, for fiscal year 22 or fiscal year 2022.
Do I hear a second?
Second?
All in favor, roll call. Commissioner Cole,
Yes.
Commissioner Najrowski,
Yes.
Commissioner Papalarzik, yes.
Second motion is for Steve Fernandez to have contract signature authority for the water department for fiscal year 2022.
Do I hear a second?
Second?
All in favor, roll call. Commissioner Cole,
Yes.
Commissioner Najrowski,
Yes.
Commissioner Papalarzik, yes.
Do you need to sign these?
Yeah, I do need signatures on those. Like, first line.
I'll leave the first line open.
Okay.
Now, will Joe have to come down?
I'm gonna check with Tammy to see if it's okay if just have two signatures from tonight and then the minutes showing that it was a roll call vote. I might have to have you come down, Joe, but let me talk to Tammy first.
I'm happy to. I haven't come down, so if you need me to sign anything, I can sign.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. All right, moving on to the next agenda item, approval of the March 3rd, 2021 and April 20th, 2021 minutes.
Yeah, I think you sent an email, Hannah, on, I think I had a question on one of these and you answered, or it was actually Heather this one.
Yeah.
So I'm fine with that. So sure, I'll make a motion to approve the March 3rd and April 20th meeting minutes. Separate or can we do it? Or do you have to do
I think do a second.
Okay. All right, I'll make a motion to approve the March 3rd meeting minutes as written.
Do I hear a second? All in favor, roll call. Commissioner Cole,
Yes.
Commissioner Najrowski,
Yes.
Commissioner Papalarzik, yes.
And I'll make a motion to approve the April 20th, 2021 minutes as written.
Second. Second
All in
by,
favor, roll call. Commissioner Cole,
yes.
Commissioner Najrowski,
Yes.
Commissioner Papalarzik, yes. All right, thank you for that. Department project updates.
All right, so you guys, I'm assuming all received the email on the departmental updates, Joe. Did you get those?
I did not.
Did not?
I don't remember seeing.
That's what I was.
Yeah. So we can start with Dry Bridge. The council has approved the SRF funding for the treatment plant, which is great. But as talking with our tying bond, and one of the things we have to fulfill for DEP is having a public participation meeting on the project. So they suggested that we incorporate it with our monthly meeting. If we can do that next month, June 1st, that'd be great. That's not driving.
So Steve,
Yeah.
as it applies to that, like, what So I'm assuming a Zoom meeting would constitute a public meeting?
Yes, it's any form, the public has access to. Basically, it would be a brief overview of the project and then a period for people to, make a comment or, could have a back and forth with some questions as well.
Like I said, the timeline would help.
Yeah, the timeline will be here for that as well, just.
Just to help everyone to answer questions.
So basically, they would present scope of project,
Yes.
timing, what, maybe what's environmental impact.
Can't answer any questions that.
And then satisfies the SRF funding requirement that you have, for them, authorizing, giving the funds that you can have, it's transparency.
Sure.
Yeah, exactly. And
Do they have some kind of draft presentation there already that they can share with us?
Yes, as far as it'd be tailored to us, obviously, but they're prepared to do that. We just,
It would just be good for all of us.
we can,
No, absolutely.
yeah.
And Fran, you said, sorry, that's gonna be during our meeting?
Yes, it would be, one or two ways, it's simple and easiest, and I think the widest dissemination would just be, let's just have it as part of, a meeting, our monthly commission meetings, if it had to be, I suppose you could have a special meeting, but I think we can make it all work.
Just be on the agenda.
On the agenda, probably the first item.
Is there a
Yeah, that
time when that has to happen?
I want to say the sooner the better, because, now we're in the 20-day waiting period after there were 2 council votes that happened last Thursday. That puts us into that 21-day period of comment, which is, it's not unique to this situation, but every bond has that. So once that's done, then, okay, we're kind of good to go. But in order for, SRF to release funds and make payments or anything like that, this needs to be part of the, 50 other requirements that we need.
Like their checklists.
Yeah, exactly.
This is one of the moving forward. It was suggested to us by timeline, because they've done it before in other meetings, so that's why it's a good idea. Everybody's here.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it seems like the convenient time to do it.
Yeah.
And I think in the beginning of the agenda also makes sense because we've been having public participation on the agenda, and it's a quasi-public participation item. If we are going to have back and forth questions to time bond from the public, that I'm guessing will moderate.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
So that's dry bridge.
So we can't go out to bid until that is satisfied, is that correct?
Yes, I mean, there's a bunch of other stuff before it's gonna go out to bid, but that's definitely one. Yeah, then we would need that. But we still are in that little bit of 20-day purgatory right now anyways, but we definitely need to.
Because it's public now, because it was, because it went from singles.
Yeah, right, and we want to come out of the gate and get this advertised as soon as possible so the bidding can commence and all that, so.
What's the anticipated time frame for that on SRF approvals and
They're hoping to break ground before winter.
Oh, wow.
And that they could have this out to bid, say the 1st of July. maybe.
Right, that's the anticipation having on July.
Because we were already, well beyond 90% the design, but this thing essentially has been on hold for 2 years. So now we're coming back to it. We've stayed in tune with it, but there was a couple little things, to just kind of brush the dust off the plans and get it going again.
yeah, and the city's already received DEP's technical approval on the design, right?
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's great. That's the big
Yeah, and we've had
stuff
slightly
usually.
gas and electric and talking about fiber and that kind of stuff. So, we're definitely ready to go.
That's great. Thank you.
So continuing on with the updates. Owen District, we ran approximately 102 million gallons of water through that. And well 2 is about 320, which is, it's not offline, it's because of demand, and plus Owen being new, chose to run Owen instead of well two. But
That was the same number in March, right?
it was, it's been off since, it's been idle since November. But it's been, tested every month, still been on the schedule for testing. So we can anticipate that within the next month or two, starting out a visit demand. So. East Mountain Tank, as you guys know, the new one's online, old one demolished. New things since the last meeting, site works probably about 80% done. We got the security fence around the tank, just about done. They're working on the access road today and prepping that for paving. So it should be coming to an end soon. Reservoir is full, as we said earlier. Flashboards are installed and.
Is that the last major item with the tank replacement?
Oh, yes. Yeah. It's just about there. Today they were fixing, they had to put a curtain drain in. They did some kind of a spring. Yeah, out of there, so. But yeah, that's a lot of stuff going on. More stuff upcoming. But I know that's each month.
Yeah.
So what is in the works for this building season? What's
We got, I don't know where Western Ave is at, Western Ave is on. We got the bridge on South Maple, that'll be the next one. Yeah.
And next month, we're gonna start rehabbing all the tanks. Meaning, cleaning inside, outside, painting, new hatches, new vents. Some of them I think are gonna get some rework around the overflows with security screening and whatnot. And that hasn't been done in a long time. So
And that was part of
yeah, that was all part of the East Mountain tank. And
okay.
so it's,
I was gonna say, so
solid
Yeah.
piece.
it's basically coming out of the bond.
yes, and it's really something that we had wanted to do for a long time. And this is great that we're gonna just do them all at once. I think we anticipate maybe towards the end of the summer that we all done with this.
I think it's something to 3 weeks,
Yeah.
2 to 3 weeks.
Weather permitting, yeah,
Who's it gonna
The antiques.
the same one that built the tank. Some of the tanks they actually built that they'll be doing the
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, probably the bigger one's going to be traffic wise and all that, would be Southgate, the bridge. It's gonna be, yeah.
Do we know when that's gonna,
John.
really ramp up?
We met with them last week. We met with them a couple of times. The last meeting is they're still deciding as far as when to do their test holes, as far as they're gonna be inserting some valves on either side of the bridge. So when we can isolate it so they can move whatever they gotta move. So, but we're still waiting to hear from them on that.
Are they gonna do a shutdown or they're gonna try to do insertion valves?
No, we've done a shutdown and we had success with it, so we didn't have success with the insertion valves on East Mountain, so we kinda.
Yeah.
We kind of told them put the
They're
valves.
tough for that size.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
so they're gonna be putting butterfly valves in, so. On either side. Which only benefit us in the long run if we ever have to isolate that bridge, is we got 2 brand new valves there, so.
What size is the
Absolutely.
16-inch.
So is there gonna be a disruption in service?
Well, there would be disruption, but disruption is gonna be after hours, won't be during the daytime. The plan on is between 4 to 6 hours disruption time, be in the evening time, so. Be one valve put in, then the next day or whenever time permitting, be the other valve inserted, so.
So there
What's
would be.
the,
Go ahead, sorry, Joel.
sorry, no, I'm sorry, Ron. What's the shutdown, area per se? Where's the closest valves?
Well, currently it's East City View, right by Dunkin' Donuts there.
Yep.
That's one. Oh, yeah. And right on the other side of the bridge, and that little island there where it goes up to Mill Street, there's another one there.
That's great. So they're really close.
Already close, there's nobody out in the water, but if we have to go further, we have the valves already isolated for that, so
Awesome.
that'll be a bigger shutdown if we have to do that.
So there'll be pressure drop, but not complete loss of service.
No, we had, when we shut it down, it was during the daytime. We didn't see anything significant, pressure drop, but it was a short period of time, so. But that wasn't during demand season.
Right,
either,
slow use.
Yeah. So, you know how that goes. If say we're good, then they shut it down. Yeah, yeah.
But the good part of that exercise was, because we were against the insertion valves anyways, was that we proved it out, that we could shut them off. It allows us to put, a real valve in, if you will, and we didn't have to use those, which the contractors happy too, because they typically are kind of a nightmare. We got to put them in, you got no choice, it's great, but you don't always shut down tight, and you go through all that effort and then find, $3 money invested in a valve that doesn't really shut very well. So.
And the way we proved it out, we shut those two valves on the bridge. There's a blow off, open a blow off, and shoot, put your feet up in the air and shut the valves and went down to nothing. So. Yeah. So I mean, Woody had said this. Then they had repaired it back in the '90s.
So what are the valves there that are there now? Are they butterflies?
No, they're regular.
Okay.
They're winch valves.
But they're some distance away from.
Oh yeah, they're just not yeah.
Okay, so they're not right.
Yeah.
No, yeah. So we're gonna put new ones in. Then they
And then that eliminates your disruption area going forward. And now you're just isolated to the bridge. So you can move a little bit more freely.
And don't forget, it's all gonna be temporary. They said for about 2 years on whatever bridge you're gonna put there, as far as temporary. So there is something should happen, we can isolate that pretty quickly.
Right. That was another concern that something goes awry here, fitting blows off or something, but they're,
Yeah,
no
the winter.
6 hour shutdown turns into.
Yeah, being a 16 inches.
Okay,
So wrong, that's
Right. And we have had experience with that exact pipe, not in that location, but if down in Mill Street when we had that, it was a T, I think, kind of blew off a T or something right at the bend by South Middle and the ball field.
good.
Yeah. So.
So that's probably the biggest one coming. As far as it's gonna be disruption. I mean, traffic is the biggest part of their concern in that project.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Does anyone have an update on where things stand with the mining project?
I do not have an update on that. I think it's pretty much done.
I haven't seen the guys.
Yeah, because they returned the backflow that they borrowed from us.
Oh, okay.
I'm not saying 100%, but I'm sure that.
All right. Are there any other questions on department project updates?
Nothing here, Joe.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for that comprehensive update on everything that's going on. I appreciate it. If there's nothing else, we can look into scheduling our next meeting.
June 1st.
Earlier, I think.
Didn't we say June 1st?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say I should have spoke up earlier. I have a conflict on the 1st. But if it is, I'm not sure what the time is for the city for the approval if it does end up going through. How long before our vote does the city enact the revised rate?
That'd be a little time.
It's tight, it's the time of year, I don't know if we wanna have the meeting a week early. Like in May, before
Let's-
the holiday.
Is John and Ron, does it work for you guys, the June 1st?
It does.
Yeah, I'm okay on the first.
I'll shift my schedule around. It's not, I can make it, I can get someone else to go.
This next meeting, we're all gonna wanna be there.
Yeah,
I mean, between the
Yep.
rate study
right.
and the public meeting, I think.
I agree.
It's gonna be
I just
important.
wanted to share, I have planned time off on June 1st, but I don't think you need me here, obviously, for the vote. For the rate increase, I don't need to be here. We have everything you need for time off, so you will. I'll get it to you, right?
Yeah, I'm fine with the first if everyone else is. We'll miss you, Joanna, but
I'll let you do.
I'll think of you.
Not very hard.
so June 1st at 7.
I won't be here, but I will be.
Remotely.
Yeah, I'm sorry I wasn't there today. I'm sorry I wasn't there. We can try to start shifting back towards that so there's less awkwardness with me chiming in when other people are talking. So about that. Then we'll plan on June 1st at 7. Do I hear a motion to adjourn at 8:19?
I'll make a motion to adjourn the May 11th meeting.
Second?
All in favor, roll call. Commissioner Cole,
Yes.
Commissioner Najewski,
Yes.
Commissioner Papalarczyk, yes. Thank you very much, everyone.